on in, everybody, to another edition here of the Auburn Undercover podcast. Nathan King here, joined with Jason Caldwell. We just got done talking to Hugh Freeze, and that is not our focus right now, though. We are not over at football. We are in Neville Arena as some massive news as Auburn started preseason basketball practice today, and coming along with it, Bruce Pearl has announced his retirement after 11 seasons as Auburn basketball's head coach. Of course, a tremendous career even before he got to Auburn, and Stephen Pearl, his son, associate head coach for the last couple of years, assistant coach throughout Bruce Pearl's tenure, will be taking over as the head coach, signed a 5-year contract. Jason, this doesn't necessarily come as a massive surprise. You know, we had heard about Bruce Pearl considering a Senate run. He said today that that's not going to be happening. He's instead going to be moving into an administrative role at Auburn. But overall, this was just something, you look at the tea leaves over the summer of Stephen having such a major role in the program, combined with the things you and I have been hearing the last couple weeks. Not a surprise, but obviously just massive news. End of a coaching era, the greatest in Auburn basketball history.
Yeah, there's no question about that, first of all. But yeah, I mean, even the last couple of years, when you watch practice, watch those things, Stephen Pearl is really involved, has been really involved in running the show, doing things. But obviously, it ramped up a lot this summer. We were out here watching practice a couple of days, and Stephen's kind of running things. And so it didn't come as a huge shock to us. But you still, when it happens, you still go, wow, it happened. Yeah. And so no question that the greatest run in Auburn basketball history, nothing even close compares to what he did during his time at Auburn. And he set a foundation up. That's what Stephen Pearl said. Look, the foundation has been laid unlike at any other time in Auburn basketball history. And so if you're going to make a move like this is the perfect time to do it with, this is a new team, but it's now, I mean, heck, I think it's Stephen Pearl's team. We saw it, like they bonded together. I think these guys are really comfortable in transitioning now to Stephen as a head coach. And so, timing, first day of practice, they're out here. Stephen's running the show. And so, really interesting timing. But, man, it's hard to put into words what we saw happen for Auburn basketball under Bruce Pearl.
Yeah, and Bruce said it today in his farewell message, when he felt like he was not giving his all anymore and felt like he wasn't able to give 100%. That's always when he was going to call it quits. And obviously, you're coming off the best season in program history. I think that obviously played a part. We all joked last year that if Auburn had made it to the national, if they won a national title, it felt like the right time for Bruce Pearl to retire. It still, in hindsight, feels like the right time. And you brought up a good point as well. Bruce, I think we had seen it the last couple of years. Stephen never got head coach in waiting in writing in a contract, but it felt that way. The timing of this and really the situation of not necessarily it being September, but it being 2025, coming off of that season where Auburn had been positioned the last few years, it felt like maybe if you had waited a little longer, things would have not been as clear. I think this was the most clear year for Bruce Pearl to be able to retire. And ultimately, we know that one of his goals was to be able to be in a position to hand the program over to his son.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so you look, and that's, like I said, it was never in writing, but you always had that feeling because we could see Stephen Pearl, how involved he was, obviously doing some of the things we saw from the ambush tours this summer. It felt like it's been a grooming process for a little while now. And so Stephen obviously has been a coordinator, defensive coordinator for them. And so he's had a lot of responsibility for a long time. Nobody knows this system better than he does. And so you're able to pick up where you left off. And again, the staff is here in place. Roster's in place. This is an opportunity to hit the ground running and not have to worry about all the other things that go along with being a head coach. You can coach basketball, do the press conferences, all that stuff, but the team's built, coaching staff's built. Obviously, we'll see what happens with the opening there, but this is as good a situation as you could step into when you start talking about a new roster, but it's your roster.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll have to see. The portal does come open for these guys to be able to potentially transfer whenever there is a coaching change. But I just think you've also got the context that Jason was talking about of Stephen Pearl's been running these practices. I don't foresee that this was a major surprise to anybody on this roster, and you'd like to think that they had at least a little bit of an inkling. And so, the other question mark is the assistant opening, but really, I mean, the familiarity with Auburn. You were pointing it out when we were down there. It's like you sort of snapshot the coaching staff hanging out together now without Bruce Pearl. It's a lot of young guys, but it's a lot of young guys that have come up together, and a lot of guys who have been on this staff for a long time. The recent promotions of a guy like Ian Borders, I mean, just further underscores that. Even somebody like Matt Gaten's being on staff. We'll see if he's a candidate maybe for that assistant opening. But right now he's a general manager for Auburn, was hired in the offseason. He coached with Steven previously. He was an assistant coach with him. He coached under Bruce Pearl. And so lots and lots of familiarity, not necessarily on the roster, not personnel-wise, but lots of familiarity with this staff. They all know Steven and who he is, and now it's just a different title for him.
It is, and you know, so yeah, so I think you know, a lot of things now to look forward to and to see how things come together for this roster. That was always going to be a question, even if Bruce Pearl is coaching or if it's Steven Pearl coaching, because you got so many new faces, all those things. But man, you know, it's still, when you think about this day, it's not really thinking about forward; it's thinking back to seeing what Bruce Pearl. And I mean, I'm older than you guys are, and I've lived a lot of Auburn basketball, and for much of that time, it was you know, not a whole lot of people, and it used to be, you know, in the Coliseum and here. It changed under Bruce Pearl, and he mentioned something today that is really key. It changed before they started winning. He went out and sought people out, and that was his strength. That's the biggest strength he has is his ability to connect with people, and that sold the program before they ever started winning. And then when they sold the program, then it led to them winning. That's why fan engagement is such a big deal, that it had a big part in them taking the next step, but he was a reason why, because of what he went out and did in the community, and he built it before it ever started.
I mean, it's tough for some of us to even contextualize because, like, I started at Auburn in 2016. That was the last year, now the COVID year notwithstanding, that was the last year before they really rose to competitiveness. My sophomore year, they won their first SEC championship, and obviously it's been off and running ever since then. And so it's obviously on Steven Pearl and this new staff to try to maintain that. But like you said, looking back at the last 11 years, it's frankly unbelievable what they accomplished. If you had told somebody 12 years ago that Auburn basketball was going to reach the heights that they did, you know, a couple Final Fours that we were able to go to. You know, obviously we were there in San Antonio just a few months ago, and obviously in Minneapolis as well. And then Auburn enjoyed, you know, 5 SEC titles and, you know, NBA draft picks. You really just go down the line. They've never experienced anything like it. And the final thing we'll touch on here, Jason, is that Bruce Pearl, while he will no longer be the head coach, he is still going to be employed at Auburn. They said in the press release that he is now taking on an ambassador role. He'll be a special assistant to the athletic director. So he said he'll still be around. He'll still be at Jordan-Hare Stadium. He'll still be at Neville Arena. Still be at Plains and Park, and obviously will still play a big hand in supporting his son. You know, from probably just right down the hall.
Yeah, no, I think it just makes too much sense. He's a guy that is an ambassador. Has been an ambassador for Auburn Athletics and for Auburn University since he stepped foot on campus. Now he gets to do that in an official role, and he gets the chance to go on trips to maybe a football game or to a College World Series or whatever, and be that kind of guy for Auburn and Auburn Athletics. It's the right move, perfect timing. He's still here. I kind of think about what Coach Dye did. Coach Dye was a guy that was an ambassador for Auburn University well after he finished coaching. He talked about Coach Dye, how much of an impact he had. I think that's a similar role. I think you see a guy that's going to go, look, this is a place that allowed me to rejuvenate my career, restart it, and I think he's going to repay Auburn for some of the belief they had in him.
Yeah, and he said in his video, you know, he will not be running for Senate, but he said instead I'm going to be Auburn's senator. So sort of taking that, you know, like you said, he's been an ambassador for them for so long, and now he'll have an opportunity to continue to do that. Steven Pearl's introductory press conference, we'll see if, you know, we get to talk to Bruce Pearl as well there. We'll see. But Steven Pearl, we know, and obviously John Cohen, 9 a.m. Wednesday morning, he will be introduced as Auburn basketball's next head coach. So for Jason Caldwell, I am Nathan King. We're here inside Neville Arena on a historic day. Bruce Pearl has retired after 11 years as Auburn basketball's head coach and is now the Steven Pearl era. So we've had it covered all day long, and we'll continue to pay attention to this week and talk about the beginning of the Steven Pearl era and the end of the Bruce Pearl era at auburnundercover.com. So we'll see you guys over there.